Today we want to talk about something very important, and that will be cucumber cultivation and management of cucumber plant and farm. Welcome to our channel. My name is Ofomadabichi Victor and I'll be your guide. In this course, you hear me mention more of cucumber, but this course entirely is a course on cucumber and bitter gourd. So whatever I say about cucumber is also applicable to bitter gourd. Unless where there is discrepancies, I will also state that one out for us. You know, the saying that says a good yield starts from a good variety, and that's why we want to start by discussing and talking about choosing the right variety. You know, there are a lot of things to consider when you want to choose the variety of cucumber to plant. We have a lot of varieties of cucumber. We have our African giant, we have our smart, we have darker. All these are varieties that we have. Choosing the right variety of cucumber depends on what you are looking for. Is it cucumber that is resistant to some pests and diseases? Is it cucumbers that are high yielding? What are you looking for, color, or are you looking for taste? And secondly, you also have to look out for what the market around you requires. There are some markets that requires short seeds, and there are some markets that require the big seed. There are some markets that require the very greenish cucumber, and that is what our African giant, our smart, and our darker offers us. So these are the things you consider when choosing the variety to plant, and more especially, you have to look out for seeds that are not easily susceptible to some diseases and pests and fungi that affect other varieties in the market. So this is what you consider when choosing the right variety for your plant. The next point we want to talk about is your soil preparation. Many of us will say sandy, some people will say loamy soil, some people will say any soil. But the truth is that the best soil to use for farming cucumber is actually the loamy soil. Most especially soils that are rich in compost and in organic matters. The energy you spend, the money you spend in planting cucumber, because I consider cucumber as one of the heavy feeders, and if you farm cucumber in a land that is not fertile, the amount of energy and money and resources you spend in boosting that soil might be too much for you. So it's better when choosing a land, you choose one that has a lot of organic matters in it. So it will reduce your stress of, oh, this soil is not fertile, oh, what do I do to boost this soil? You also choose soils that are not infected. There are some places you farm cucumber and naturally they will just be dying off because they have a lot of enemies in the soil. A lot of bacteria and fungi and viruses already existing on the soil that will affect it adversely. So it's either you treat the soil properly before, or test it, treat it before use, or you choose one that is already fertile and free of diseases, so that you don't have to stress yourself or have loss in your farm. So I don't know if anybody have had any experience in cucumber farming that didn't go down well, and maybe you planted and they died or something happened to it that you cannot explain after doing the basic things. Maybe you can share with us in the comment section, or you can share with us as we are talking, so that we will interact together on that, so I can provide a solution if necessary. After choosing your soil, the next thing you need to know is, what do I need to do to plant the cucumber? I've seen people open the soil and put their cucumber. Some people just open hole, add manure to the soil and plant inside, and probably their result might not be commensurate with what they will be expecting, and then there will be complaints. Now, cucumber has roots, and it has the tap root and the fibrous root. All those root systems are built to help it to feed. So in planting and cultivation of cucumber, you have to consider their feeding. Now, one of the ways you prepare your land for cultivation of cucumber is by making ridges. Now, the specification for making your ridge, if you are planting 2 in one bed, it should be 1 meter. The length is determinant, so that you can be able to plant here and still have a space of 40 cm in between. In between the two plants, you should have at least 40 cm or 50 cm, so that the roots can be able to travel and not be interwoven in the soil, and also get whatever nutrient they require for their survival or their growth. And before you make the bed, it's advised that you add compost manure in the soil, and that will help you to eliminate some complaints and some challenges, because if the cucumber plant feeds very well, it will have a lot of energy to even withstand some diseases that naturally would have affected it if it's not feeding very well. If you are feeding your plants very well, they have a lot of resistance to some things that naturally you struggle with to grow if you do not feed them very well. So you lay your compost in the soil, and then you cover and allow it to stay for 3 to 4 days before you can now plant in the soil. So your land preparation should be done properly, so that your farm layout will also make your bed or your farm to look very, very interesting, and also avoid some diseases.
Hi guys, you're welcome to another Coach 99 Agro Tip, where we'll be giving out simple lessons that will take your farming to the next level. For today, we'll be looking at a mulching technique that has proven to be very effective in our vegetable farms. And before we jump in, this video is brought to you by Coach 99 Training Institute. So if you find this training helpful, please like, share and hit the subscribe button. Alright, let's roll. First, mulching is a basic farming technique that is practiced in different ways. Where I grew up though, most rural farmers don't mulch. It's seen as an extra work and cost. Although mulching may introduce extra cost, that is if you can't find mulching materials for free, it basically would save you a lot of farm management issues and cost eventually. This is because mulching involves the act of using materials like straws, plastic film, sawdust and so on to reduce the rate of evaporation and growth of weeds in the farm. In a nutshell, water is conserved, which helps your plant, and you don't have to spend much on weed management. So which mulching technique do we recommend? Yeah, anyone is fine. You really need to consider your budget and which material is available in your area. That said, here in Coach 99, we have used the plastic polythene, popularly known as mulching film, to mulch our farms for over 10 years, and it has been incredible. It costs a little bucks though, but it is way worth every hustle. Plus, it's quite simple to set up. This film is simply set on the farm bed, and edges are tucked tightly with the soil. Then we carefully cut out big circles from where we sow our seeds and expect the plants to shoot out. It is also important to note that if you use the drip tapes for irrigating the farm like we do, the tapes would need to be laid beneath the beds. If you want a video on how we do that, let me know in the comment section. Now, we have used both the black and silverish plastic film. Both are great because despite the rains and so on, well-managed films could be used for more than one farming season. However, we prefer the silverish or reflective mulching film because it doesn't absorb the heat of sunlight, thereby keeping the soil moist. And one other crucial advantage of its reflective feature is that it helps to repel whiteflies. Of course, there's the obvious disadvantage: it's not biodegradable. That's the big caution for every farmer. Once the film wears out, please pull it out and take it to the trash. Well, that'll be all for our quick tip on mulching film. So what's your preferred mulching technique? Let's know in the comment section. Before we go, always remember to commit your life and work to God, who is our first farmer. Bye.
Now let's talk about planting space and guideline in planting and transplanting of your cucumber. As I mentioned earlier, there are guidelines in planting your cucumber. Cucumber actually is one plant that you can plant directly. There are different methods of planting crops in the farm. There is the indirect method and there is a direct method. So cucumber is one of the crops that you can plant directly and you have your expectations met in terms of your germination. Now you can plant directly in the farm, and then the specification I mentioned earlier about 40 cm and 50 cm or 30 cm depending on your dripping system. So that's the planting spacing and specification you need to plant in your farm. And secondly, in planting your cucumbers, there's also need for you to not some of that 2% or 3% or 1% that you use to replant in case of pests like grasshopper, natural occurrences causing some of them not to germinate or causing some of them to die when they germinate. Your replacement should happen between the first 1 week of your planting, first 1 week to 2 weeks of your plant, so that your plant can be old enough for transplanting. I've seen some farmers in the bid to use space, they farm cucumber under shades and under trees, and you will find out that one thing you notice is that their leaves becomes small. Their leaves are not broad because they are not getting enough photosynthesis to develop their leaves, their fruits, and their stems. So you see a very tiny cucumber, you'll be wondering, oh, why is my cucumber not growing tall? Why is it not growing big? Why are the leaves looking like one small leaf like that in the bush? One of the reasons is because we farm our cucumbers where we do not have enough sunlight. So for you to have an effective cucumber cultivation, you need to farm your cucumber where your cucumber can have light of about 6 to 8 or 10 hours in a day, so that they can have enough photosynthesis, they can have enough energy, because the energy they use is gotten from the sun mostly to develop their branches, develop their roots, develop their stem and their fruit. So you need adequate sunlight for your cucumber to be able to produce for you and have a good yield. So one of the things in your planting and your spacing is that you plant where there is no coverage, where there is no shade. Thank you. We want to talk about the importance of watering and the management of your crops. Now, for cucumber, it requires a lot of water, especially when it has fruits and when it's flowering, so that it can give you that beautiful and nice size and then bring out the taste. If you don't water your cucumber very well when it's fruiting, you stand the chance of having that bitter cucumber normally you do buy in the market sometimes. Your watering pattern should be once a day for the vegetative state. When it's growing up and coming up, especially during dry season, just water once a day. Water it very well once in a day. But once it starts flowering and start fruiting, it's advisable that your watering routine should be twice in a day. Some in the morning because of evaporation and heat. You can water it that period because a lot of water will be lost through evaporation. If you are using irrigation, it should be an elongated watering so that at every point in time your soil will have water to absorb. Bitter gourd can be watered once in a day. You can just water it once, both flowering and fruiting. You might not need that extensive and consistent watering of your bitter gourd, but you need also to give it water. We also want to talk about pest and disease management. There are a lot of pests that affect cucumber and bitter gourd, but prevention, we say, is what better than cure. We have pests like grasshopper, which I mentioned earlier in the video. Once your crop is small, that they are coming up, they are susceptible to all these grasshopper attacks now that is also in dry season. You have attacks from rodents, you have attacks from other pests and diseases, white fly, beetles, worms. All these things are diseases and pests that affect our crop and make them not to produce the way they are supposed to. And one of the ways to prevent these things from coming close to your farm is by keeping the environment of your farm clean. So keep your environment clean from weeds, keep your environment clean from things that can harbor pests and diseases. It's about keeping your environment of your farm neat and clean, and that goes a long way, about 70-80% from preventing these things from coming to your farm. One major pest you have to look out for if you are organizing a farm in this dry season is one pest we call white fly. It lives under the leaf of your farm, and you might just come and say, oh, why is my crop looking like it's having sunburn? No, it's having this mosaic texture in the leaf. And you now look under, you find thrips, you find white fly. Those ones also are pests that introduce viruses to our crop that we need to take care of and prevent.
You first mix it in a bucket or in a bowl or whatever container you have, using the required quantity of water before you introduce it into your knapsack sprayer, which we use to spray the pesticide in your farm. It's very important because most times you introduce the chemical directly into the knapsack and then put water. You find out that possibly the first set of crops you spray will get burnt on the leaves, reason being that pesticide wasn't properly mixed before spraying. So to be on the safe side, you just do the mixing in the bucket before you introduce into the knapsack. Then at what time do you spray? It's very good to spray around the evening, because then the temperature and everything is very much calm, and these are the time that some of these pests come out to feed. So it's very important that you spray at that time of the day during the evening hours, so that you can be able to get these pests and then get them eradicated from you. How best to spray? Now, depending on the situation in your farm at a point in time, most times you're spraying because you have already seen a pest on your farm. Most times you're spraying because you want to prevent the pest from coming into your farm. So these are two different scenarios. If you're spraying to prevent, you can just spray maybe along the furrow or just spray all over the farm, without targeting on the leaves. That is when you are spraying to prevent, when the pests are not already present in the farm. But when the pests are there, something like white fly or aphids, you know that they are just behind your leaves and they are just there. You have to target where the pest is and spray to be able to eradicate them properly. Pesticides and pollinators is very important too, because that's why I said if you're spraying, you spray in the evening, because at the early hours of the day or during the daytime, let's say from around 7, 8, 9, 10, you see all these pollinators. They are hovering around your farm or your flowers trying to do their work, and if you are spraying at that particular point in time, there's a tendency to scare some of these pollinators away. That's why I said if you're spraying, make your spraying at the later time of the day, maybe in the evening is best time to spray. By that time, you see that some of these pests, you will see them visibly in the farm at that point in time. So that's the best time to spray with regards to pollinators.
On this segment, we'll talk about support and pruning. As I said earlier, cucumber is a vine plant, bitter gourd is a vine plant, and they need support. There are some cucumbers you buy, the part of it is white, some part of it is green. Now, why also this is also an indicator to the truth or the fact that you need to have adequate sunlight in your farm, is because when you stake your cucumber and the vine is going up, the fruits start coming out, the coloration around your cucumber is a reflection of how well your farm is being illuminated. So when you stake, one, your farm looks neat, two, you eliminate effect of pests and diseases that are already on the ground, or even bacteria and viruses. Thirdly, you get the desired color of your cucumber, that you require. So for bitter gourd, if you plant it close to a fence, I also discovered that if you have anything mesh or something around it, it grows on its own. Now there are different methods whereby you can support and your cucumber and your bitter gourd. One is you can get a mesh around the place, around your farm, or use a mesh and it grows on its own. It just climbs. Or you can use something we call shade net. Shade net is also a wonderful medium of staking your cucumber. There's another management practice we have, which is called pruning. And then the advantages of pruning is that one of it is that it helps your plant to grow well, it helps it to grow taller, it helps the fruit you are producing to form very well, because the energy that the plant will need to produce more branches will not be expended on the ones on the ground. Now, what is pruning? Pruning is the cutting off of the lower leaves of your cucumber to give your cucumber allowance for air to move into your farm, and also to help you for your fruit formation, and also to help your cucumber to grow more branches. So you need support for cucumber, you need support for bitter gourd. For that cucumber, it's very, very important that you prune. If you don't prune, you still get your cucumbers, but it will not give you exactly what our seed has promised to give you so far. Thank you.
Hi everyone, in today's video we are going to teach you the basics of pruning cucumbers. A lot of people are clueless to the fact that pruning is very necessary, especially for cucumbers. Then again, those who know its importance have no knowledge on how to go about pruning, and so they end up cutting off part of the plants they actually should leave, which is a disaster. So you really need to watch this. Before we proceed, this video is brought to you by Coach 99 Training Institute. So if you find this training helpful, please like the video and hit the subscribe button to be alerted about our upcoming tutorials. Alright, let's get started. First, there's no hard and fast rule about how to prune. The technique you choose to use depends on what you want to achieve, okay? What we are going to share with you is basically the technique we have worked with and have found very effective. But why do we prune? Pruning your cucumber vine makes it less crowded. This helps with airflow, minimizes spread of diseases and pest infestation, and it gives your farm a neat and organized view. Now, it may be a little exhausting to prune, especially on a large farm, but the gain is worth the pain. Before we think of pruning, let's walk through how the cucumber vine grows. I'll give you 3 key observations and we'll see what we wish to achieve. The cucumber vine is basically made up of the main vine, branches, flowers, and true leaves. So how does it grow? Firstly, the cucumber main vine and branches are identical in many ways. As they grow, they produce branches, flowers, and fruits. Both crawl and spread. They are so identical that the major difference between the main vine and the branches is that your main vine should be thicker. As the oldest and thickest branch, it is only reasonable that the main vine should transport more nutrients to the rest of the vine because it is the primary feeder. This is why in pruning we want to keep this growing. Second observation in the cucumber vine is that every true leaf points to a node, okay? So when your plant germinates, the first 2 leaves you see are the cotyledons. After those, you get your true leaves. Now, those true leaves are always by a node. Branches don't have cotyledons, so every branch has true leaves, and just like the main vine, these true leaves are close to a node. The third observation is that the branches and flowers stem from a node. The nodes of a vine are points where the branches and flowers would eventually emerge from. So you notice that very close to a true leaf, a branch begins to emerge. And when that branch produces a leaf, you see another node on that branch, and that will still produce a branch. That's the cycle. Both male and female flowers also emerge from the nodes. Rarely though, a node may not produce a flower, but every node produces a branch. So with that said, this is what we wish to achieve when we prune. Because the cucumber vine is very vigorous, we want to keep our main feeder, which should help transport sufficient nutrients to the branches. To achieve high quality and better farm management, we will be shortening the length of the branch. This means that we'll be targeting just 1 or 2 fruits per branch. Finally, we'll be removing all branches that are close to the ground. This is essential for management. Now, let's get to pruning. To begin pruning, you can use a scissors, pincher, or a knife. Remove the first to 4th side shoots sprouting from the main shoot and leave the fruit setting to begin from the 5th and above branches. Then from the 5th branch and above, cut off nodes from above the 2nd node of each branch. Be careful not to cut off flowers. As we all know, fruits are formed from pollinated flowers. This process is not done just once, it's done over time. Once you are done pruning, you can't help but notice the immediate change in the look of your farm. Make sure you pack up all the leaf debris after you are done pruning. If you have other questions or further inquiries you want to make on pruning cucumbers, just drop them in the comment section. We'll be glad to provide answers. See you next time.
You don't pluck, you cut with scissors or a harvesting implement. And the reason for that is when you drag your cucumber from the vine, you might also fell some flowers that are just coming out or developing, and then you stress the plant. So you don't harvest and keep them in the sun. It will reduce the value of the cucumber. So there are precautionary measures you take to make sure that your harvest is preserved and the taste and the quality is being maintained. So thank you very much. Nice talking with you. God bless. In conclusion, we've discussed choosing the right variety. We've discussed planting and spacing. We've discussed watering and maintenance of the farm, that's management of pests and diseases. We've discussed pruning and support, and we've discussed harvesting. And these are the tidbits of what you need for your cucumber cultivation. And this video or this class will not be complete without getting a feedback from you. So from now till the next 6 weeks, I would like to get a feedback, a picture if possible, or a result of how you have cultivated your cucumber and your bitter gourd and the result. It will give us a very great joy to get feedback from you, either in the comment section or you call the number that are shown on your screen. It will also help us to prepare more and more content and present to you. Cheers.